Hey guys, how's everybody doing today? Oh, for me, I'm tired again today. I was really tired yesterday. I'm tired today. It's been a long week. It's been a really good week, but like my body's tired from working out all the time. I'm just mentally tired. So I'm looking forward to the weekend to kind of, disconnect and take a break from everything, and just relax for a couple days. I feel like I've been going, I'm really tired, but, so I want to recap from yesterday. How did everybody do as far as working on forgiving yourself? Did we look at, how our day went? Did we journal at night, and just reflect on how we had done, any of that stuff? For me, I did, and I really looked at it yesterday and really came to a point of like acceptance, for who I am and what I'm doing today, and knowing that I'm working on the best version of myself. And sometimes I fall short, sometimes I don't do great. And that's okay. It's okay to have those days or those periods of time where we're not doing our best, whatever that looks like. It really comes down to expectations for me. And I place these really high expectations on myself, that I should, could, would do all these different things. When that's not the reality, that's not the reality of life. I hold myself at this unrealistic standard, and when I don't meet it, that's when I get discontent within myself, so if I just let that stuff go and accept me for who I am, flaws and everything included, I can really then begin to forgive myself, for decisions I'm making or, thoughts that I have, where I'm at, so, comment, let me know how you guys did. How did you do yesterday on working on forgiving yourself for anything that you're holding on to, whether it's recent or really long time ago, it doesn't matter. I found through a lot of self-reflection that I hold on to things from years ago, and it's a process to start working on letting that stuff go. It really is. It's an ongoing process. Hi, Jake. I see you popped in there. My intention word for today, we're going to continue to read the story that I read yesterday, started to read yesterday. We're going to finish it today. But I still chose an intention card today, and mine was challenges. And it really still goes hand in hand with all the things that I've been talking about this last week. Forgiving yourself and practicing compassion with yourself, and also putting out the kindness into the world. All of those things are challenges. Challenges don't have to be these things that we see right in front of us. This next goal that we're trying to achieve, or, I don't know, like working hard towards a specific thing. That doesn't necessarily sum up challenges. It's a challenge to wake up in the morning. It's a challenge to change my thoughts into positive thinking. It's a challenge to do the next right thing. It's a challenge to forgive myself. All of those things are challenges. It's a challenge for me to understand the power that I have. The topic that we were talking about yesterday and we'll continue to talk about today. It's really a challenge for me to see how influential I can be and, how unique I am and, that I am special, I even see the air quotes. They started there because it's hard for me to acknowledge, my own worth and, how valuable I am to the stream of life. And I'm sure that some of you guys can relate to that stuff too. Betsy just popped in and said, yes, I agree. I'm sure that you can, it's really easy for me to be negative and be Debbie Downer, and just sit in this pit of self-pity. It's really hard for me to actually acknowledge the fact that I'm a decent human being and that I deserve more than what I've given myself in the past. So when I saw that word, I just picked it a few minutes ago, actually, because I forgot this morning. But when I saw that word, those are the first things that started going through my head, within the last 5-10 minutes. Just all the different challenges that we face, and a lot of times we don't even realize that we're facing these challenges. We don't even notice it. It's like going through the mundane tasks of our everyday life, and we don't realize how much of a challenge those things really are, and give yourself some credit. Whatever your life looks like today, you get up and you do that today. You do that. Nobody else does that. So give yourself a little bit of credit. You're facing and overcoming challenges every single day, whether you realize it or not. All right, so I'm going to read my Demi book before we get into the butterfly effect. I looked at this 5 minutes ago too. And again, I'll put the comments in there. Oh, wait, speaking of comments here, let me post this one before I forget. There's that one with our resources. But I'll put the book titles in the comments again today, just in case anybody hasn't seen them over the past few days. But I read this one too a few minutes ago, and I like this one too. It goes right with what we're saying. It's crazy how these themes end up playing out, and they play through the entire week, or, end up showing up with my coworkers or people in my life and my support network and, my loved ones. It's absolutely crazy to me. Holly, do you have hearts in your ears? I do have hearts in my ears. Yes. They're glass. I love them. They're my favorite ones. Betsy, it's so hard living alone. It makes me sad. Just real quick, Betsy, I can imagine, I lived alone. I do live alone, but I lived completely alone, about 3-4 months ago, and then I had this impulsive decision to get this cat. And, I knew that it wasn't necessarily the most ideal decision at the time, but I knew that that's what I wanted to do, and I felt it, and I felt motivated by it and inspired to do this. So I did it. I took the plunge. I got a cat, and then we got, quarantined, a month after I got him, and I'm super grateful that I have him. I couldn't imagine being completely alone right now, and I'm sure that it is hard, but we have the access of the cell phones and stuff like that, so please, utilize that. Get on the Zoom calls. I know it's not the same, but it's something. It's something to bring us outside of ourselves. Betsy, you're on this call right now, watching me. At least you have some sort of human interaction, It is really hard. It is. And I commend you for doing it, because without my cat, I don't know, he keeps me entertained. I can talk to him. I can cry with him. He keeps me on my toes. That's for sure. And I've gotten to build this relationship with him, and I'm extremely grateful for that. So I think about people that live alone right now, or that are on the streets right now alone, and I really can't imagine how hard that is. So, there you go, talking about challenges, like that's a challenge that you face every single day, and you're doing it. You're doing the right things, and that's what matters. You're on here, and I'm sure that you're reaching out in one way or another, but continue to, push past all of that. Thank you for bringing that up, but okay. So this reading for today, April 17th, how I feel about myself is more important than how I look. Feeling confident, being comfortable in your own skin, that's what really makes you beautiful. That's a quote from Bobby Brown. Nobody else has exactly what you have. You were given your body and your features, so be grateful that you have them. My friend Spencer West has gone his entire life without legs, but that hasn't stopped him from truly living his life. Now, when I start to criticize my body, I think of Spencer's incredible strength and realize how lucky I am to have legs at all. If he can stand tall without legs, so can I. Goal: place yourself in someone else's shoes and appreciate what you have. And I just was touching on that a little bit. You're unique, Each one of us was made this way for a reason, and we have a purpose, and, we are special and powerful. So sometimes, like, when I get caught up in the mindset of being ungrateful for everything that I have, I do that. I'll think about all these different people in the world who don't, have the luxury of having a cat at home, or having even a home, having a cell phone, stuff like that. And it brings me right back to the point of being grateful. I talked about it one of these days, me realizing how blessed I am for all these little things in my life, and I'm unique, and I'm special, and so are you, each one of you, so just think about that sometimes, and realize that being confident in your own skin and acknowledging your worth and how special you really are is really a foundation to an entirely different lifestyle and an entire different mindset. It really is a struggle out there. It really is. So if you have a cell phone, if you have a home, if you have somewhere that you're living, loved ones that care about you, and ask how you're doing. My mom drives me absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. I'm 30 years old and she treats me like I'm 12. But at the same time, I'm so blessed to have someone in my life that cares that much to just ask how I'm doing every day and want to talk to me. And sometimes I forget that. Basic things, of being, having people that care about you and having people care where you are and what you're doing and how you're doing. Friend, loved one, or otherwise, really getting down to those basics of, what we have in our life and remembering all those little things. Like, there's people out there who don't have that stuff, who don't have the access to get on here and see somebody's face, who don't have a home to go to, who don't have food to eat right now, who don't have clothes to put on, all these things. So try to stay mindful of that, and be grateful for the things that you do have and take action and utilize the tools that are right in front of you, to bring you out of that slump, that you're in at the moment. Help you face your challenges. Okay. Hi, Stacy. Betsy, I agree. We're all blessed. Absolutely. I think I got all the comments caught up. All right. So we'll get into this. We got about 15-ish minutes left. So let's get back into this. If you didn't watch the video yesterday and you're watching it now for the first time, you're only going to hear half of the story. I read the first half of it yesterday. So I apologize for that, but you can go back and watch the other video, the other one, and watch them together if that's your situation at the moment. All right, so where we left off yesterday. Where we left off was, the last thing I read was, everything you do matters to all of us forever. On Friday, April 2nd, 2004, ABC News honored a man who, at the time, was 91 years old. The news program was running a regular segment called Person of the Week. Usually, the honoree's accomplishments are listed in advance, and by the time the name is announced, most folks have already guessed the identity of that week's recipient. In this instant, however, the pronouncement left many viewers puzzled. That's me too, Stacy. Sorry, I was reading that comment. I worry about people that don't have a computer or internet access. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think about it every day. Okay. And so our person of the week is, the anchorman finally said, Norman Borlaug. One can only imagine the frowns. Who? Who did he say? Norman. What was the last name? Yet despite our unfamiliarity, Norman Borlaug is a man who is personally responsible for drastically and dramatically changing the world in which we live. You see, in the early 1940s, Norman Borlaug hybridized high-yield, disease-resistant corn and wheat for arid climates. From the Dust Bowl of Western Africa to our own desert Southwest, from South and Central America to the plains of Siberia, across Europe and Asia, Borlaug's specific seed product flourished and regenerated where no seed had ever thrived before. Through the years, it has now been calculated that Norman Borlaug's work saved from famine more than 2 billion lives. Actually, it was never reported, but the anchorman was misinformed. It was not Norman Borlaug who saved the 2 billion people, though very few caught the mistake. It was a man named Henry Wallace. Henry Wallace was the Vice President of the United States under Franklin Roosevelt. Wait a minute, you might exclaim. I thought Harry Truman was the Vice President under Roosevelt. That is very true, but remember, Roosevelt served 4 terms. He had 3 different vice presidents, and the second man to serve as Roosevelt's vice president from 1941 to 45 was Henry Wallace. Wallace was the former Secretary of Agriculture, who, after his one term as vice president, was dumped from the ticket in favor of Truman. While Wallace was vice president, however, he used the power of that office to create a station in Mexico whose sole purpose was to hybridize corn and wheat for arid climates. And he hired a young man named Norman Borlaug to run it. So Norman Borlaug won the Nobel Prize, and Norman Borlaug was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. But considering the connection, it was really Henry Wallace that saved the 2 billion people. Or was it George Washington Carver? You remember Carver, don't you? The peanut? But here's something that very few people know. When Carver was 19 years old and a student at Iowa State University, he had a dairy sciences professor who, on Saturday and Sunday afternoons, would allow his 6-year-old boy to go on botanical expeditions with the brilliant student. It was George Washington Carver who took that boy and instilled in him a love for plants and a vision for what they could do for humanity. It was George Washington Carver who pointed 6-year-old Henry Wallace's life in a specific direction, long before he ever became Vice President of the United States. It is amazing to contemplate, isn't it? George Washington Carver flapping his butterfly wings with the peanut. There are currently 266 things he developed from the peanut that we still use today. He flapped his wings with the sweet potato. There are 88 things Carver originated from the sweet potato that we still use today. And while no one was even looking, George Washington Carver flapped his wings with a couple times with a 6-year-old boy, and just happened to save the lives of more than 2 billion people, and counting. So maybe it should have been George Washington Carver, Person of the Week, or the farmer from Diamond, Missouri. His name was Moses, and he lived in a slave state, but he didn't believe in slavery. This made him a target for psychopaths like Quantrill's raiders, who terrorized the area by destroying property, by burning and killing. And sure enough, one cold January night, Quantrill's raiders rode through Moses' farm. The outlaws burned the barn, shot several people, and dragged off a woman named Mary Washington, who refused to let go of her infant son, George. Now, Mary Washington was a friend of Moses' wife, Susan. Though distraught, Susan promptly set to work writing messages and contacting nearby farms. She got word through neighbors and towns, and 2 days later managed to secure a meeting for Moses with the bandits. Susan looked on anxiously as her husband rode off on a black horse. His destination was a crossroad in Kansas, several hours to the north. There, at the appointed time, in the middle of the night, Moses met up with 4 of Quantrill's raiders. They were on horseback, carrying torches, and had flour sacks tied over their heads with holes cut for their eyes. There, the farmer traded the only horse they had left on their farm for what the outlaws threw him in a dirty burlap bag. As the bandits thundered off on their horses, Moses fell to his knees, and there, alone on that dark winter night, the farmer pulled from the bag a cold, naked, almost dead baby boy. Quickly he jerked open his coat and his shirt and placed the child next to his skin. Covering him then with his own clothes and relying on the warmth from his own body, the man turned and walked that baby home. Moses walked through the night and into the next morning to get the child to Susan. There they committed to that tiny human being and to each other that they would care for him. They promised the boy an education to honor his mother, Mary, who they knew was already dead. That night they gave the baby their own name, and that is how Moses and Susan Carver came to raise that little baby, George Washington. So when you think about it, maybe it was the farmer from Diamond, Missouri who saved the 2 billion people. Or was it the wife who was responsible? Certainly it was Susan who organized the effort. It was she who demanded immediate action. Unless... Is there an ending to this story? Exactly who was it that saved the 2 billion lives? Is there a specific person to whom we could point? How far back would we have to go? How many lives would we need to examine in order to determine who it really was whose actions saved the 2 billion people? A number that continues to increase every minute. And how far forward would we need to go in your life to show the difference that you make? There are generations yet unborn whose very lives will be shifted and shaped by the moves you make and the actions that you take today and tomorrow and the next day and the next. Every single thing you do matters. You have been created as one of a kind. On the planet Earth, there has never been one like you, and there will never be again. Your spirit, your thoughts and feelings, your ability to reason and act, all exist in no one else. The rarities that make you special are no mere accident or quirk of fate. You have been created in order that you might make a difference. You have within you the power to change the world. Know that your actions cannot be hoarded, saved for later, or used selectively. By your hand, millions, billions of lives will be altered, caught up in a chain of events begun by you this day. The very beating of your heart has meaning and purpose. Your actions have value far greater than silver or gold. Your life and what you do with it today matters forever. So that's the end of that story. But they show throughout this little short story numerous times how one action that we take causes this butterfly effect in numerous lives around us. And we don't notice it, Betsy, I'm sorry, what book? I'll put it in the comments afterwards. It's called The Butterfly Effect, but I'll put it in there so that you guys can actually look it up instead of me doing this. But Andy Andrews wrote it, The Butterfly Effect, How Your Life Matters. So, yeah, let me scroll back here. Where about people? Jake, lately I've been focused on challenging not only my thoughts, but my moods. Why do I feel the way that I do, and what can I do to change that? It's that cliche, one day at a time, until that saying had a meaning and purpose for me that I really didn't know what it meant. I have to be consciously aware of my thoughts and surroundings. It's hard, but I lean on my supports and grind through each day. It is super cliche, and I find myself numerous times saying these little sayings like, keep it simple, stupid, or, one day at a time, or, God first and everything else after. I have to put my recovery before everything else, and all these little cliches. But so many times in my life, it works. I was just talking to somebody a little bit ago, one of my really, close friends. We connected during this quarantine, and it's honestly one of my favorite people as far as friends go. We connect on a different level, and it's great. But I was just talking to her, and even one day at a time sometimes is too much. Right now in my life, I have to take it one moment at a time. Some days it's literally one moment at a time, focusing on what's right here, right now, and I'll deal with the rest later. Sometimes one day at a time is just overwhelming. I'm like, well, what's going to happen tonight? I have to slow down and take a step back. But those cliches really come in handy, they really do. Hi, Nellie. It's okay that you're late. You can always watch them again. Stacy, I just read about him the other day. Crazy. We are such creative, able humans, and we must help each other and acknowledge each other and learn from one another. It's such a beautiful journey. I was also talking to my sponsor about how my first instinct is to think the worst thing possible out of an outcome as my first thought. And why is that? And we talked about how humans evolved from caveman, and they, of course, were always on heightened senses because, dinosaurs. Thanks for that. Oh my God. Thanks for that, Stacey. But, I say the same thing in a different sense, but same idea is like all this stuff is our survival instincts. It's our innate in us to survive, which means to think of the worst possible scenario. Think of that, and then I'm prepared for it, and I don't have to worry about anything else. Whatever happens outside of that, I'm okay with. And I say that all the time. I say, hope for the best, but expect the worst. So I go into everything expecting the worst. So when the worst happens, I'm quote unquote ready for it, right? But what I've found in my life is, even though I've prepared myself in this mental state that like I'm ready for the worst, when the worst happens, I still feel like crap. I'm still not okay with it. I still want to change it. I still want to control it. Like all these things, So really, what did I do that whole time? I missed the moment. I missed everything going on right in front of me. I was ready for the worst. So I was, I guess a Scrooge in a way, the entire time because I'm ready for the worst to happen. And then when the worst does happen, if it does, because sometimes it does, I'm still not okay with it. So what was the point? What was the point of that? I could have enjoyed the moment, actually been there, been happy, been cheerful throughout the whole thing. And then when the worst happened, still felt the same way I would have anyways if I had expected it, and that's really that was a tough pill for me to swallow, to learn that it's okay to be okay right now. It's okay to be happy and enjoy the moment no matter how it's going to play out, because I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't know anything. I'm a mere human being. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what the world is trying to plan around me. I don't know what the universe wants for me. It's just go with it, and I keep talking about it, like going with the flow and being present in the moment. And that's all the same stuff, let those survival skills go, be there, be present in the moment, and don't sit there and wait for the worst. Don't wait for the other shoe to drop. Enjoy it, embrace it right now. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, whether you're worrying about it or not. So why stress yourself out worrying about it? I don't want gray hair. Do you? No. So, all right, Jess. Hi, Jess. Love you too. I miss you. I miss seeing your face at the meetings. Where you been at the Rocky Paw ones? But we'll talk offline. That was touching. Thanks, Mo. I really like those hearts you have in there. Amazing. Thank you, Nellie. Nikki, it took me a long time to realize that sometimes I just have to feel the things I'm feeling, and it's okay as long as I don't stay there. Absolutely. I talk about that all the time is sitting in it, and I don't feel great. I don't feel great sitting in it. It's innate in me to avoid and, distract. I like to find other things to do. I like to find anything else to take me out of all those feelings, but for me, if I actually sit through them, first and foremost, I grow and I change throughout it. But now I know what that feels like, Now the next time that I feel disappointed or let down or heartbroken or any of that stuff, I have tools and I have ways to deal with it, because I sat through it and I felt it instead of numbing it out and avoiding it. And I always talk about, it really, I'm going to feel those things anyways. So it really depends on how long do I let myself stay in it. Am I going to use my tools and get out of it? Or am I going to sit there and wallow in my nonsense for a while? And I'm completely honest about it. There's times that I wallow in my nonsense for days. These past 2 days I've been in my nonsense. It doesn't look bad today. I'm not angry. I'm not, being mean necessarily. I'm not, I'm not doing any of these things. But I've definitely been in a funk, and instead of taking action to get out of it, I've just kind of been sitting in it. I've been working out and I've been doing my videos, but at the same time, I know I could do more, so I get that. How long are we going to sit in it? How long are we going to, sit in the self-pity and everything else that comes along with who we are as humans? It's the humanism. And I talk about that a lot too. And it's something that we're born with, and it's something that our species is. You're not, nobody's abnormal for these things. But we're blessed living in a world, in a community today that teaches us how to get out of it. We have the tools, we have the supports. I have a plethora of supports right here just on this video that I can reach out to. And that's not even including everybody else in my life. We all have people that will help us get out of that, that I can call and vent to, or, ask for advice or whatever, and tonight is going to be one of those times for me. Like, I'm going to disconnect for a little while and just hang out with someone that I trust and that I can talk to, and, that's a way for me to kind of take an action to get out of this funk that I've been in for the past 2 days. Every ounce of my being wants to isolate and hide and just wallow in my shit, sorry, excuse my language, in my stuff. But instead, I need to take a step outside of it, and do something about that. And for me, it's, people and connecting and helping people and being there. That's the stuff that helps me. And that's also the stuff that helps me feel like I make a difference and have a purpose in this world. When I can be there for somebody else, it really shows me how unique I am. And then people message me and they're like, I need to talk to you specifically because they like the views that I have, or we've been through the same struggles, or they feel like they can talk to me, whatever, that stuff helps me see my worth. You guys help me see my worth. So today, my intention for you guys today is those challenges. Acknowledge your challenges. Push past the fear to get through them. And also, at the end of all this, at the end of today, give yourself some credit. Give yourself some credit for every single challenge that you overcome every day. Acknowledge your power. You guys are amazing, and everybody's challenges look different. And it might seem small to you, but it's really not. It's a challenge. You get up every day, you take care of your kids, you do whatever it is. You go to work, you don't go to work today, you work out, you're there for people. Whatever it is that you do today, that's a challenge that you overcome every single day. So give yourself some credit. And face them with a smile on your face today. Be grateful that you have these challenges. Be grateful that you have a life, that you get up and you get to live every single day. No matter how stressful it is today, take a moment and just be grateful for the fact that you even have a challenge. That you have an opportunity to grow and change and learn and give back to the world. But yeah, I will put the book titles in the comments. So if you guys want to read this again without my reading skills involved, because I know I mispronounce things and stutter and get all confused. So yeah, absolutely. And I recommend it. It's an amazing book, just to kind of put it into perspective. And the Demi Lovato book, I swear by it. It's my life. That thing is my life. And I just want to thank Stacy. Stacy, you are inspiring, so thank you. I want to thank each and every one of you, thank you for saying that, Stacy, but, you guys are my inspiration. You guys inspire me every single day, to keep going, Without your guys' power, I wouldn't have my own power. You guys fill my bank, So yeah, I look forward to Monday. No idea what I'm going to do, but we'll figure it out. And I hope you guys have a weekend, a really good weekend. Take some time off, disconnect, face your challenges with a smile on your face, and remember to be grateful, Use your power, use your voice. You are an amazing human being, each and every single one of you. I don't care. You might feel like I'm just saying it, but I'm not. I truly mean it from the depths of my soul. You guys are amazing. Own your power. Own your power. And I look forward to talking to you guys on Monday. Have a good weekend.